Okay, so we'll start slightly differently today. So we'll start in supta baddhakonasana. So just come down onto your back and pull your feet towards you. If there's discomfort in your hips, then just put some blocks underneath your thighs. Just hold on to your lower ribs. If you feel that your head rolls back, then put a blanket underneath your head, underneath the back of the neck. So spend a little time once you have settled yourself, just observing your breath. As you inhale, feel that you inhale from the bottom of the lungs to the top of the lungs. And as you exhale, exhale from the top of the lungs to the bottom of the lungs. And then root the breath in the abdomen. So you breathe from the abdomen up to the top of the lungs. And from the top of the lungs down into the abdomen. So the shamanic breath, where you breathe down into the abdomen, brings awareness of your energy. Observe what happens when you focus on that shamanic breath into the abdomen. And then breathe from the apanic breath, from the perineum, the base of the torso, up towards the collarbone, and the out breath from the collarbone down towards the perineum. Just focusing on the movement of the breath. So there's a circularity to the apanic breath, almost as though the in-breath draws up around the back of the spine, and the out-breath comes from the collarbone along the front of the chest, down the front of the abdomen, down to the collarbone, down to the perineum. So the in-breath comes along the spine, the out-breath comes along the skin. And then just draw your knees in towards your chest. Just get hold of your feet for happy baby pose. So you get hold of the little toe side of the foot, and then keep the knees bent. You can bring the feet apart. Just have a little rock, but maintain that apanic breath as you do. And then just rock yourself up into a seated position, and then come forwards, sit back on your heels for Adho Mukha Virasana. So sit back on your heels, have your knees wide enough apart so that you can bring the lower ribs through, and then come forwards, trying to keep the seat bones in contact with your heels. So wriggling the seat bones into the heels, stretching your arms away, bring your head down onto the floor. Maintain the apanic breath. So remember, with the out breath, you're pushing the positive energy of the breath, the healing energy of the breath, down into the pelvic region, down into the perineum. So even though we're rising the energy of the breath from the perineum to the collarbone, we're still engaging with that universal energy that surrounds us, the cosmic energy, and we can direct that energy with the out breath. So we're drawing our out breath down into the pelvic region. Come up onto all fours, turn your toes under, and then come up into dog down, working with that apanic breath. Step your feet forwards, just come up into a standing position, and then bring your feet as wide apart as your mat. Raise your arms up, hook the thumbs into the crease of the elbows, wrap your fingers around your elbows, and then hang forwards. Just go halfway down. If you've got a problem with your back, put your elbows on the back of a chair or a table or a windowsill. Just breathe apanically, whichever version of the pose you do. And then release your hands down to the floor and then come up into a standing position. Just stand in the center of your mat for Tadasana. Breathe in from the perineum to the collarbone and from the collarbone down to the perineum with the out breath. Bring your arms out nice and wide, then into the chest, and then step or jump the feet apart nice and wide with the legs. So turn your toes in, bring your hands onto your hips, lift and open your chest. Broadening the toes, so stamping the big toes into the floor. Turn your toes in slightly so that the outside edge of your foot lines up with the edge of the mat. Stamp the big toes in, stretch into the little toe side, suck the outer thighs in by stamping that little toe down into the floor. Lift up into the chest and then hinge at the hips. And then reach down. So breathe in apanically, using blocks for your hands if you need to. Breathe in evenly in through the nose. Working with that apanic breath. Keeping the head lifted, looking forward so that you draw your shoulder blades in towards the front chest. So Ian, can you lift the sternum bone towards the collarbone a little more? That's it. So if you can, keep the back straight, keep the shoulder blades drawing in towards the chest, and then bring the chin down to face the floor. Walk the heels of your hands in line with your heels of your feet, and then bring the head down. Use a block under your head if it doesn't reach. Or just stay at the first stage. Breathe apanically. So there should be very little weight on your head. Your legs should be doing all of the action, sucking the outer thighs in. You can even reach around the outsides of your ankles, drawing them in, sucking the outer thighs in. Breathe in apanically. Put your hands under your head and then walk your hands forwards, come back to the first stage. Bring the palms of the hands down onto the floor, bend your knees, and then step or jump your feet back together, and then come up into Tadasana. And then raise your arms for Urdhva. Breathing evenly and deeply listening to the sound of the breath. Breathing apanically. And then release your hand. So we can do malasana. So malasana is the cobbler pose. So there's several ways of coming into malasana. I'll show you. So the kind of traditional way, if you like, is to come directly from the floor, but that is very, very hard to lift. You can kind of lift yourself up like this, and then you can come forwards. But for many, that's not perfect. It's not the ideal way to kind of do the pose. So sit on a couple of blocks, just to give you that kind of little head start, and then pull your feet towards you. And some people like to have some blocks at the sides of the hips to kind of help them to push themselves away. Let's just see how it goes. So just hold on around the outside of your knees, and then lift and open the chest, driving the spine upwards. To feel that you can drive the abdomen up towards the diaphragm towards the collarbone. Just breathe aponically. So the big toes are touching, the heels are touching, the knees are apart, the knees are wide apart. And then reach up with your hands like you're doing virasana, lifting from the abdomen to the diaphragm, to the collarbone, to the chin. And then slowly draw yourself forwards, and then kind of propel yourself off the lift. So the feet are flat on the floor. So like I say, if you find it difficult to propel yourself off the floor, then just have a block or two at the side of you. Just lift yourself off like this. And then come forward. So sometimes it takes a couple of lifts to get off. Try and keep the heels down on the floor if you can. Breathing evenly and deeply, lifting the chest, lowering the shoulders away from your ears. Breathing aponically. And then gently guide yourself back down onto the block. And then stretch your legs out. So there are several ways to do this pose. And one of the ways that I really like is if you use a post. Now, obviously, I'm not going to use this post because that's holding the ceiling up. I don't think that would. My friend Ed would be freaking out if I did that. So, so I won't do that. But so you can use a door frame for this because your door frame is usually pretty secure, isn't it? So you've got to be about legs distance away from your wall. And then you bring yourself up, and then this time you reach around the kind of as high up the door frame as you can. And then you draw yourself back, so you keep the elbows bent, lifting the chest, drawing the tailbone down. So you get much better lift of the front chest. And then slowly, you can begin to walk yourself down the wall, lifting the chest, keeping the knees in. And then the next part of the pose is where you bring your arms, you actually bring your arms behind you, so you can do one arm at a time. So, I mean, actually, the hands are supposed to come behind you and do namaste behind your back. That's a little tall order, I think, isn't it? But it's that's where the pose kind of ultimately ends up. So let's try it. Use a door frame, or if you haven't got anything like a door frame, you can just do it in the middle of the room again. So if you're using the door frame, be about roughly a leg's distance away from the wall, and then bring the legs into the front body, and then lift and open the chest. Reach your arms upwards, reach up into the arms, and then come forwards, and then get hold of the top or kind of the eye height of your lift. Again, keeping your heels down. It's a little easier to keep your heels down because you can almost afford to lean back a little. Lifting the chest, and then you can just walk your hands down. So walking your hands down, but keeping the chest lifted. And then reach around the outside of you. If you're using the wall, wall. You reach around the outside of the knee and then reach the hands behind. Just do one at a time. So Andrew, that is good, but you're actually supposed to bring your arms around the outside of the knee and then bring the hand up. So that's so that poses a whole new level of challenge, doesn't it? Okay, and then just gently release, and then just stretch your legs out in front. Good, and then just come down off the lift and just come back onto your mat, and then just to rest out your back, come back down into supta baddhakonasana. So this softens the lumbar spine, broaden out from the abdomen into the abdominal walls to really soften out the lumbar. Breathing evenly and deeply. Going back to the apanic breath if we lost it in malasana. And then just draw your knees towards each other, pull your knees in towards your chest, and just have a little rock from top to bottom, from side to side, just ironing out the kinks of the back. And then sit yourself up. So we're going to do supta virasana. So supta virasana, if it's not possible for you to do supta virasana, you can just do supta baddhakonasana with a bolster or some cushions underneath you. So you've got a little bit extra lift. It's also useful to have a blanket for your head in this. So supta virasana is where the knees are together, the feet are kind of not too close to the bolster, that you can probably touch the bolster with your tiptoes. Get your thumbs into the back of the knee and then draw back of the calf flesh away from the back of the knee and out to the side. So you've got a little bit of space between your seat bones and your sacrum spine and your bolster. So this is the first stage of supta virasana, just coming into virasana, allowing yourself to just sink between the heels. If it's really not bearable or not possible, then you can put a block underneath your seat bones at this stage, but it's better to take it away when you come back. So you can do this if you've got dodgy knees. You can do this with a belt in the back of the knee and then draw that belt away, so a bit like this. So if you've got a dodgy knee, you can bring the belt into the back of the knee and then you pull it away as you sit back, and then you give yourself more space. Or one of the most effective ways of kind of protecting your knees is to get your blanket, just pull it out so that it's kind of a long folded blanket like this. Again, come onto your head, and this will help you keep your knees together in virasana. So then you bring the blanket into the back of your knees, and this gives you loads of really good space in the back of the knees, but it also holds your knees together. So just finding the virasana that you can kind of maintain. Of course, if this is just not right for your knees at all, you can do this in supta baddhakonasana, but these kind of methods can help. And then you lift the chest, you drive the chest upwards, and then you come down onto your elbows and then guide yourself along the floor. Now, sometimes when you use extra equipment like blankets in the back of the knee, sometimes the bolster does feel a little bit further away from you. So you might want to additionally put some more blankets on top of your bolster. So this is, I'm spending some time kind of getting you into the pose because it's a tricky pose to get into. It's not always not always immediately comfortable. So you can build up the size of your bolster to accommodate your kind of physical needs within the pose. So once you're in the pose, so Ruth, see if you can keep your knees together if you can. Once you're in the pose, go back to that apanic breath. Reach your arms over your head, interlock the fingers, and extend your arms along the body, along the bolster. Breathing evenly and deeply. Turn the tailbone inwards. So people often feel the stretch in the quads for this pose. So it feels like a really strong stretch of the quads. It's a nice stretch, but it's pretty intense. Lengthen the tailbone region down towards the backs of the knees. Soften the abdomen. Draw the abdomen towards the spine. So we try to keep the knees together, but it's very difficult, that, isn't it? I suppose the one way that you can ensure that your knees stay together is by tying your legs together. But sometimes it's just good to feel where your body needs to be within the pose. So, Ian, you might need a little more lift under your back because your knees are lifting off the floor, it looks like. So that's usually a sign that you need more lift underneath your back. So when I was doing my teacher training, we did this pose with foam pads with the blocks, and mine was like kind of this. My blocks were like this high, almost double, probably double what I'm using now, because I just couldn't. I couldn't kind of keep my knees down. I couldn't keep my knees together, although my knees are moving apart a little now. But I just couldn't find any comfort in the pose. So you have to start off high, because this is a hugely beneficial pose. You have to start off high, and then eventually you can find more comfort in the pose. Breathe in apanically. So if it's not possible to stay, then do supta baddhakonasana. Bring your arms back down, just resting your arms on the floor, palms facing upwards. Just bring yourself out of the pose, push your elbows into the floor, lift your chest, try not to push your head forwards, lift your chest, come up with the chest first, come onto your hands, and then just come onto your knees. Now your legs are going to be really reluctant to straighten, so work with a himsa, just respect the legs' reluctance. Turn your toes under, again, huge amounts of resistance. Turn your toes under, and then when you feel ready, push yourself up into dog down. Slowly begin to straighten your legs, and slowly begin to bring your heels down. So we often resist bringing our heels down in dog down because it's often a bit of a full stop to the pose. It also means that often, if you can see those creases between the foot and the shin, then you're dropping the fronts of your legs. So you have to really work the fronts of the legs. But just for this pose where we are kind of refreshing our legs out of supta virasana, it feels good just to bring your heels down. You get that really good stretch of the calf muscle. And then gently come down onto your knees. Just move the bolster out of the way and then come up into a seated position. So just bring yourself into a good cross-legged position and then just hold onto your knees. Just find some levelness. Jeff, come on. Sorry, my cats want to come up. Come on, Jeff. Well, I think they do. Just sit in a good cross-legged position. Jeff, come on. Oh, he took his time there, didn't he? Okay. So sit in a good cross-legged position. Raise the front of the chest upwards. Draw your shoulders down away from your ears. Just breathe from the apanic region. Draw your chin down to make your chest. Lift the anal sphincter up towards the diaphragm region from Mula Bandha. Mula Bandha and Jalandhara Bandha. And continue the apanic breath. And then release Mula Bandha. Release Jalandhara Bandha. Just hold on to your knees. You have to excuse that chomping sound. Jeff is eating my plant. So, Jeff, stop it. That's Jeff, that's Arthur, sorry. He was trying to eat my plant. So lift and open the chest, drive your spine upwards, take a good, strong, deep inhalation in through the nose. And then turn to the right side, drawing the abdomen across, the ribs across, the shoulders across. Come back to the center, hold onto your knees, lift and open the chest, and then turn to the left, drawing your abdomen across. And then come back to the center. So we're going to finish off in viparita karanhi, but we're going to use the wall so that it becomes easier to stay. I'm just going to have to use this, but you can use a bolster, and you can also use a belt around your knees. So you just create a loop with the belt, and then slip that belt around your legs, and then you just sit yourself as close to the wall as you can, and then you can just shuffle your seat bone up on the wall. Just use your feet up on the wall just to get the seat bones as close to the wall as you can, and then with the belt, just put the belt around either the tops or the bottoms of the knees, and that will just let you allow your legs to release. So sometimes you want to just kind of adjust, just bring the bolster underneath your back a little bit more, just so that you can really lift and open the chest. And then you can either, so you come right onto the tops of your shoulders, you can either just let your arms rest on the floor like this, or you can even, which is really lovely, just rest your arms over your head. So just resting the arms on the floor, but they're just resting over the head. This is particularly lovely. So breathe evenly and deeply, and then just let the legs go. With the belt around your legs will just stay in position. So of course you can do this in the middle of the room, just holding onto the edge of the mat and then just stretching your legs up. But when we use the wall, it becomes a little quieter, it's easier to stay. Again, just focusing on that apanic breath. Okay, and to bring yourself out of the pose, just bend your knees, just loosen the belt. You can slip the belt off or just come down with the belt around your knees. Just roll to your right side off the bolster, and then just prepare yourself for sirvasana with a blanket underneath your head. You might want a bolster underneath your knees. You can put some blocks underneath your feet if you prefer, and then just allow yourself to release down into the floor. Just let the body release. Unhook the muscles of the arms and the legs. If you don't feel comfortable, just have a quick look. Make sure that you're in a really good straight line. Let the muscles of the arms unhook, the muscles of the legs unhook. Allow the body to become heavy. As you stay, observe the energy as it rises to the uppermost skin. And then distribute that energy evenly throughout the body using the breath, the in-breath and the out-breath. Down to the tips of the toes, to the tips of the fingers, to the top of the head. Basking in that feeling of lightness. And then when you're ready to disturb yourself, wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, bend your knees, bring your knees onto the bolster if you're using it, and then draw your knees in towards your chest, just a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just a little gentle massage on the spine, and then roll onto your right side. Just straighten out your top leg, come back up into the seated position, just a final cross legs with your hands in Namaste, just a final spinal lift. Draw your breath in through your nose down into the abdomen. Going back to the samanic breath. Observe the energy that you have released through your practice this morning. Draw your chin down to meet your chest. Spend a moment to acknowledge the positive energy you've created inside. And then send some of that positive energy out into the world. And then release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards. And as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. Thank you. So hopefully you feel as though you have really kind of opened up your energy around the pelvic region and There's lots of good energy for the rest of the day. Thank you very much for joining.